Hello, this is my persuasive speech about affirmative action in America, and I'm going to try and persuade you why that the Supreme Court has ruled in the wrong favor. So, what affirmative action is that colleges have to have a certain amount of people of minorities attend the college, and it's like that for the workplace too, and this is different corporations in America where they have to make a certain quota, or like schools too, like from elementary to more to like college. So in 2023, the Supreme Court ruled against Harvard and UNC Chapel Hill because that one of the amendments that it violated that equal representation for all races. But in America, like, you had slavery, and you had like immigration from Asian Americans in San Francisco to Haitian people in Florida, to everywhere, to like having different minority groups and how they were treated unfairly throughout the years, like Native Americans and other minorities that they did, like Asians and like black people. So that they shouldn't have ruled and like just let anybody in. I'm not saying that some people have to be certain. I'm saying that everybody has to be qualified. But if somebody's black, they should be given a position there, because in America as a whole, it's always been a white dominated country, and there has been systemic racism in America with Jim Crow laws, and that's just for the black community. The examples for the black community, and how disadvantaged have they been throughout all of history. Like going to a top university in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s was hard for a minority back in that time, and like it was an indirect racism, like where the system was very against them. But as time went on, more and more minorities started going to these schools, but compared to Caucasians who their parents are alumni of their top universities, it's just staggering difference, because there's a lot more Caucasians going to these schools than minorities are, especially black people. And this really hurt, and it hurts like everybody, because most of their grandparents have went to these top universities and get into these top universities with alumni acceptance, and like that helps out their GPA, and that's just a thing that colleges do. So black people who've never been at an advantage at that, been at a disadvantage of going to these top universities, that when they don't have to meet a certain quota, the whole school could be white if that happens. So that's why I do think that when they're accepting applications, they should let minorities in there. Going to Asian Americans, going through like the racism in 1940s because World War II, to Asian people, and certain laws have been in place to stop these immigrants from being successful in America. So leading that to going to college, these immigrants weren't allowed to be going to these college back in the day, and they were doing it before blacks. But just making a comparison of who came first, it's just that you should have a certain amount of minorities be in there, because their whole existence in America, they struggle to be in those places, and it just happens to be all white. So that's why they should be inclusive to everybody and be a representation of as the American college system as a whole. So And you like being minority, as you watch this, you like not a lot of minorities can say, oh, I went to these schools, or they're only like 10-14%. You know, with Hispanics it goes like up to 30% of being the population, but it's always mostly ran on whites because America's mostly ran on whites. And I'm just not saying that, you know, like it should be a representation. If there's a small percentage of like minorities in America, they should be given the same chance as the whites who've been trying to, you know, put us at a disadvantage since Jim Crow and the early 1900 laws. And if you a Caucasian person be like, well, I don't want to be discriminated against either. It could get to a sensitive topic of, you know, just because you're white, you're given a better chance. It's just competing with somebody as good as you, but it's competing with somebody as good as you who's a different color as you, but your chance at success for you is way higher than a chance of a minority, especially to a black man, where black men aren't usually successful and white people always are. And it's a real statistic that even if you don't go to a top college like the minority, if you go to a regular college, you'll be just as fine as somebody who as a minority who went to a top college. So it just gets into the deep matter of that, but you can say it's not your fault. But it's just the system that we've been living in, and that it's systematic and it all connects to each other. One thing leads to the next. Like minorities should be given a certain amount of positions in college admissions. And thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions, probably can't answer them. I hope you really enjoyed this speech. Hope I didn't go on about nonsense over and over. But yep, have a great rest of your semester.